There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment. And here, we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And welcome to the show, everybody. We've got a great show for you today, a very impactful show because it doesn't happen to everybody, but sometimes your life can take an unexpected turn at the moment's notice. And things like leaving your house and going and getting into your car, and you're going to go shopping, and then you've got a list, and you're going to go to the bank, and you're going to go do this, and you're going to do that, and then it happens, and it changes everything. And today we got a great guest who's going to talk about it. Her name is Eleanor Shell, and she has a website I want you to go to. Her website is called Resilient Magnolia. I believe it's resilientmagnolia.com. Am I correct in that, my dear?
You are correct.
And it's a beautiful website, and it's very impactful because I've used impactful a couple of times because you were impacted at one time by an accident that quite literally changed everything for you, didn't it?
It did. And literally an instant.
And we need to talk about that. But before we go there, I want to Resilient Magnolia. Where did that name come from? I just love it.
Well, actually, in processing how my life changed in an instant, I really thought that my journey was going to be tied up in a neat bow, and I was going to have something hard that happened, and I was going to work through it, and I was going to have the big bow that, happy ending on the end. And as I thought about that, I didn't want to be hardened by this experience. I didn't want to be hardened by any experience, and thought back to the ideal Southern woman that I grew up with, still Magnolia, that you are tough as nails and hard shell on the outside. No matter what the pain, you always have the pearls on and the big smile. Talk a lot about how as children, we would joke that you could be pulling up to church and pulling each other's hairs out in the car. And then when you walked out the door, you're going to have the big smile and everything's going to be perfect. And I don't want to be perfect. I want to be resilient, but still be beautiful and still bloom and still bring goodness and beauty to the world.
Well, and I thank you for that. And one of the things that you are passionate about, and I assume it has something to do with the accident that you were involved in, is distracted driving, and especially teen distracted driving. And because I was looking at the statistics, it's horrific, but you know this, of how many young people go out on a Friday night and they get into a car and they're with a bunch of friends. I didn't know this statistic that most of these accidents have 3 or more people involved that are in the car at the time. And they can all be teenagers. And the driver is a teenager and doesn't have a great deal of experience. And bad things can happen. And so tell us your story. Did I get that right at all, that you were leaving your house and you were going to go to the store and you were maybe go to the bank?
I was walking into a doctor's appointment. So I had left my house. I was in a parking lot and I was actually walking. That's something my husband tells me a lot. He's like, you need to let people know that you were walking, because people hear, oh, I was in an accident, I was hit by a car. They think you were in a car. But I was, and it's funny that because there are those statistics about Friday nights or about, when teens, but this was 9:00 in the morning on a Wednesday morning, walking into a doctor's appointment. I remember I was also pushing my on Wednesday, she'll be 2-year-old daughter in a stroller. She is fine. I always have to start with that. Just across the parking lot, I remember thinking, gosh, this is weird, because normally 9:00 in the morning, medical parking lots are hopping. That's when everybody's getting blood tests done and that sort of thing. It was eerily quiet. And I get halfway across the main aisle and I see this car coming up the side and it didn't stop. And I looked up and I screamed, "Don't hit my baby," and pushed the stroller out of the way. And I remember the car making impact with my hip. And I remember waking up and my shoes were behind the car. So I had gone up on the car and the car had traveled a full length and was thrown about 5 feet in front of me, in front of the car. And it's funny because in that instant, I thought I was fine. And I say, every time I tell this story, I say, mom juice is real, because I was like, I want the baby. I want the baby. I'm fine. I'm fine. I did say, the first thing I said was my head hurts here and my ear hurts. But after that, for the next 12 hours, I kept saying, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. And, but what turned out to be is, while I was fine, my, while my daughter was fine, I actually have had a traumatic brain injury that came from that will impact my life forever. I can sit here and talk to you just fine, but I didn't do anything before this. I won't do anything after this. I can't cook dinner for my children anymore. I can't take my kids to amusement parks and loud places. And if you imagine having 2 boys and having to not go places that are loud and crazy, life has changed, all because a teenager wasn't paying attention. And I remember sitting there on the ground, and she, of course, was very shooken. And I had been a youth minister in the past, that I looked at her and I thought, this could be, a long list of name of kids that I had worked with in my past.
Sure.
This could also be my 3 children in the future. And, it was one mistake. And I remember on the 1-year anniversary of the accident, I was looking around at how much our lives have changed. And I don't know if her life has changed or not. But I hope that she at least remembers, and I hope that her life will be impactful, because if honestly, if she had hit me 6 or so, or about 7 months later, or the loss would have been different in North Carolina, and she would have had there would have been charges filed, and so she was lucky too. I'm lucky to still be here. She's lucky, she didn't have any long-term consequences from just an instant. Something she was I think she was looking for something in the car, or I don't know if she was actually on the phone, and something that could have waited, or she could have stopped and done what she needed to do and been 30 seconds later to wherever she was going. And we don't think about that, and kids don't think about that when they're driving, because we got to get there. We got to do what's next. We got to do, everything's instant responses. And we've got to change that in our world.
Now, how old a young lady was this?
She was, I think 20 at the time, 19 or 20.
Yeah, that is the time when everything is so important. We've got to do it now. And by the way, my boyfriend's calling me, so I better pick this up, because I don't want to. And just so you know a little bit about my background, Eleanor, I drove a bus for 12 years. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I learned, because there were several of my bus driving friends that got involved in pedestrian accidents. And when you get hit by a bus, it's not good.
Yeah.
And several people passed away because of it. But it's the instant, it's the moment, and it's the moment that nobody anticipates, because I'm perfect in every way and I'm going to be fine and I'm not going to need to anticipate this. But and then it happens, and by the way, I am sure that this has impacted her greatly. I hope she does something positive with it to make it to help herself and to help other people, because her story can be impactful, just like your story is impactful. That and so you're going into the doctor's office. Did you then go into the doctor's office and?
No, we left in an ambulance. It was funny. My doctor that I was going to see actually had, when I went and saw him the next week to make up the appointment, he had actually taken pictures of me from the window getting loaded into the ambulance. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, so we got, I did see him later. I was going in for a checkup. I was 7 months postpartum. And so I had preeclampsia. So I was getting some checkups with my cardiologist. And he was retiring, so they worked me in for the next week. But yeah, it was a great play. I mean, if you're gonna get hit, there were lots of medical assistance there quickly.
And by the way, I just want to mention this. If you are listening to this show right now on YouTube or Facebook, and you would like to say something to Eleanor, you can do it by going into the comment section, and then we'll read your comment on the air. And if you just want to say, "Hey, Eleanor, it's great to see you again," or anything that you'd like, that would be awesome. Eleanor, it is remarkable that you not only survived it, but you've got a significant brain injury, which happens. Now, what is the prognosis, my dear? Are they looking at it as it's going to be over time, that the synapses are going to rewire themselves, and which often happens in brain injuries?
So I will continue. If I continue to work, I will continue to get better. It will be slower. Most of your recovery comes in the first 12 to 18 months, and in about 2 weeks, I'll be 18 months out. But I'm continuing with cognitive therapy and physical therapy, and different. I see a great sports chiropractor who works with a lot of NFL players who have had concussions, to work, because concussions actually affect your whole nervous system and spinal. And while I've reached the first level of what they would call maximum medical improvement, I won't see significant improvement. Somewhere around year 3.5 or 4, evidently there's another big jump if you keep working. But what happens is people think, well, I'm not going to get that much better. Why should I keep working? Like, let's just live life the way it is. Having 3 kids, 8, 6, and almost 2, I have every reason in the world to continue to work every day to get better for them.
You are a young person besides all that, and you deserve to feel better and to continue to work at it. And bless you for doing that, because it's and doing all the work that you're doing with other folks, and helping kids and supporting organizations that try and reach kids. Because I don't know about you, but when I was 17, 18, 19, 20, I was pretty much invincible. I didn't think anything would go wrong and stuff. But this thing happened in an instant. It will affect her for the rest of her life, and not necessarily in a good way. So I'm hopeful that she does better, and I know that you're going to continue to work. And in 2 or 3 years, when you come back on the show, you're going to say, "I have had marked improvement. I continue to do," because your 2-year-old needs you, as
Yes.
do the others.
Yes. So my dream is to be able to bake their birthday cakes again.
And that is a great dream to have. I wish I could bake a birthday cake. I have no idea how, but it's really is important. And I want to thank you for being here. We need to take our a little bit of a break, just for like 60 seconds. And when we come back, I want to talk about the road when you discovered, because you knew that you had hit your head and stuff, but when you discovered that there was something actually really wrong, and the reason I say that is I played football when I was a kid, and there are lots of, and in those days, when you got what they got your bell rung, then they looked at it like, "Oh, he's fine, he'll dust him off, put some dirt on it, and it'll be fine." but sometimes it isn't that way, and it can be a life-changing experience. When we come back, can we talk about that a bit?
Absolutely.
And by the way, we're talking with Eleanor Shell. Go to her website, which is resilientmagnolia.com. I just love that. By the way, wasn't Sally Field in the original movie?
She was. Sally Fields, Julia Roberts were the two kind of big. There were other big ones, but I'm not remembering their names right now.
Oh, that's okay. I can't either. I just remembered Sally Field. So in any event, we will be right back. I hope everybody stays with us, and we've got a great show for you today. Here's another point to ponder from Positive Talk Radio. What is the easiest thing to justify? It is a small transgression. The one no one will ever see, no one will ever know. The tiny exaggeration on the expense report. The extra minute you took on your lunch break. The packaging you tossed in the wrong recycle bin because it was closer. In those moments, the question isn't, will I get caught? The question is, will I know? It isn't about avoiding punishment. It's a silent agreement you make with yourself when you choose to do the right thing. To return the wallet. To fix the mistake. To respect the empty space. You aren't impressing the world. You're earning your own respect. That small choice, made entirely in private, is how you build a life you never have to look away from. The only audience that matters is you. And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin McDonald, and Eleanor Shell is with us. And she has got an incredible story of resilience, resolve, and continuing to move forward with her life because she's a young person. You may not think you're a young person, but from my perspective, you're a really young person. And you got 3 kids who depend upon you every day. And that gives you a lot of incentive to continue to improve and to move forward with what you're doing. Now, when this accident happened and you got thrown, and you probably don't even remember exactly how you were thrown or where you ended up and stuff, and you knew your head hurt, but what were some of the indications that you actually had sustained a major brain injury?
So what's funny is actually the day of the accident, all day I told people I didn't lose consciousness. I didn't pass out. Um, and I actually know one of the ER doctors that met our ambulance is actually a friend of ours. And he told me that I'm a great case for them to remember they can't trust what the patient says. Cause I was like, yeah, my head hurts, but I didn't pass out. I was fine. And, it really took a day or 2 before I remembered, now wait a second, I remember the car hitting me, and so I had originally thought that the car hit me on the hip and it kind of bumped me 5 feet forward. But I was, like, flat on the ground and other people had sat me up. And that's the first thing I remember was actually I was already set up. Um, and, honestly, the first probably 3 or 4 days. I had so much inflammation from the impact and everything. And I was on so much pain medicine, wasn't even really worried about the head. I mean, I still had a headache. And the other thing is actually, you were talking about brain injuries in women are actually do what they call bloom. And a lot of times women don't have all of their symptoms until 14 days after the initial impact.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, so about 5 days after the accident, I went to the church that I'd been preaching in with my husband, and we were standing up and singing. And I kind of looked and I thought, I'm going to pass out. And I just sat down. I didn't actually dramatic. It wasn't a dramatic. And when we were on the way home, I told my husband, I said, I think I have a concussion. Um, and what was interesting is I could not get a doctor to see me. My primary care physician was out of town, so I couldn't see her. Urgent care wouldn't see me because it was an accident. I called all the doctors that had concussion specialists like on their website, and they wouldn't see me until I was diagnosed with a concussion. And so finally I had to go back to the ER. Went back to the ER and was diagnosed. Now, what's interesting is since about a year after my injury, so around May or June this year, the medical community has actually changed the way they classify brain injuries. It used to be mild, moderate, and severe. That was based on how long you lost consciousness. But what the research had shown is that there were people who had brain injuries who were in comas for 10 days and would wake up and be fine, like their brain had healed during that time. And then there are people like me who was out less than 30 minutes, which was considered a mild, whose lives are never the same again. So I no longer have what's my medical chart no longer says mild traumatic brain injury. It simply says traumatic brain injury. And I'm treated like every other brain injury patient. And I went to the first concussion doctor here in Charlotte, and he told me to sit in a dark, quiet room and to come back 10 days later. And luckily, I put a away message on my phone, because no screens, no all of that. And a good friend of mine here named Brittany got a hold of my husband. And honestly, I would say at that point, we were just really kind of new friends, and said, "You've got to get her out of Charlotte. She's not going to get the care she needs here. She needs to be in active rehab. She needs to be someplace else." And she recommended where she had gone in Pittsburgh, which is where a lot of the professional athletes go. Pittsburgh wasn't seeing people out of state at the time. So we ended up in Atlanta at the Complex Concussion Center. And I actually did get in with a concussion specialist the day before we were leaving for Atlanta, but I couldn't even be evaluated in Charlotte with a PT or an OT or anyone who could really start me on a progress for 8 weeks. And at the Shepherd Center, I saw the doctor one day, and I had all my appointments to start therapy the next day. And honestly, by the time I was done with the 12 weeks at the Shepherd Center, I was just then getting into for my evaluation here locally. And time is of such an essence when it comes to brain injuries. Yes, you need a few days to relax and rest, but then you need to be working that brain again. I had there's 6 different types of concussions. I had all 6 of them. And yeah, I had them all. And I spent pretty much 12 weeks, most of the 12 weeks away from my kids and my family, going back and forth to Atlanta. To do this program at the Shepherd Center, and they only see people for post-acute care. And thank goodness I did, because had I waited much longer, I wouldn't have been able to get in there, because they only saw people in the first 6 months after injury. And they promise they say they'll get you 40 to 60% better, and I'd say I got about 40% better, and I had the resources to continue to work. But yeah, it was definitely and honestly, even at the end of that program, and I think the whole first year, we kept thinking, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'll wake up and be fine. I'm going to do this, and then I'll wake up and be fine. And it really took until around May of this year for me to say, okay, this is life, and how are we going to live life with what it is now?
Tell me that the person who hit you had really good insurance, please.
Well, we are just beginning that process. So in North Carolina, and really across in the United States, is until I reach maximum medical improvement, we can't even really start that process. So
how well,
mhm.
we need to fix some stuff in this country. Have you noticed?
We do. I'll tell you. And in Canada, I'm in a group of concussed moms. It's an international group. In Canada, their systems there is they have like I don't know if it's the national insurance or something, that they actually immediately start getting, if you're in an accident like this, you immediately start getting your salary, your medical bills paid, which is all I want, man. If someone would just pay our bills so that I didn't have to worry about whether or not we're going to lose our house, that would be great. I'm not looking to make any money out of this. I just want to be able to pay my bills in the meantime. And then once you kind of get to the end of your treatment, then they work out between who insurance is going to pay what. But in the US, you get nothing, and you get one chance to accept a settlement. And so you really have to, if you can afford to, you really have to wait until you get all the information and you know what the long-term, lifelong effects are going to be to really get what is needed. Which And like, we still don't even have all, like, we're just now starting to get all that information together.
This is very instructive for people because who have been in an accident, as an example, because the insurance companies, as you know, it is in their best interest for you to settle as quickly as possible. But a traumatic brain injury like you have is 18 months in just the development, and then 3 to 5 years of continuing therapy to help you get your best self back. And if you settle in the early days, they're not going to revisit that and stuff. So you need to be, if you're involved in any kind of an accident, two things. First of all, I highly suggest you get an attorney to help you. And don't ever take a early settlement with the insurance company until everything is done. But it's amazing to me that they didn't continue to take care of you based upon the accident and what was going on, so that because not only are you worried about your kids and your husband, and you're worried about losing the house and paying your bills, and you did nothing to deserve any of this stuff. It drives me crazy. That's just not fair.
Yeah, it's not. So, and it will be, and our lives are put on hold. Like, we can until we reach a settlement, because of everything, as much as things are kind of starting to get back on track, I would say. Like, I'm feeling like I have found more purpose in my life, and I'm starting to know how to manage my symptoms in my day-to-day life so that I'm not feeling like I'm constantly a patient. The there is no way we can get back to where we were or caught up until there is a significant influx of cash in some way.
Well, there has to be, and if, and in my opinion, this is just my opinion, but if a particular person does not have the level of insurance, and a lot of people don't, to take care of this kind of thing, then I think the government needs to step in and to make sure that you, as being the victim here. And first of all, thank God that you had the presence of mind to roll the stroller out of the way.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and so,
Like I
because
said,
I'm looking,
the mom juice is real, I say.
yeah, exactly. Because I'm looking at that picture behind you
Yeah.
over your left shoulder, and that's a beautiful child that's there.
Yes. Yeah, they are. All three of them are. We had, it was funny when I was pregnant, my husband and I always said that we were going to be honest if we didn't have cute children, because a lot of newborns aren't cute. And amazingly, all three of our children are beautiful. They came out beautiful, and they've stayed beautiful.
Of
So,
course they are, and
yeah.
besides the fact that they're your children, but they look really cool there and stuff. So, by the way, we are talking with Eleanor Shell, and if you would like to help her, a couple of ways, actually. First of all, she's got a Substack page. I would love to talk about that. Can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, so this, honestly, it came out of me just processing this summer that life would never be the same again, and processing how hard and how unfair and um, how impossible it all seemed this last year, and then this summer, to really accept that, and how hard it is as individuals, and I think, and then as a community, not to rush past the hard things in life. And I really thought, when I came up with Resilient Magnolia, was actually back in February. I was going to go do the program that at the University of Pittsburgh, which is what all the athletes do. And I thought, oh, I'm going to go do this program for 12 weeks, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to be 100% again, and I'm going to be, ready to hit the field like an NFL player. And then I wasn't. And part of it was I was not 27. I am not a professional athlete. It was not my only job. I had 3 children that halfway through it, because it's a home program. You go there and you come home and do it. In the middle of it, my son's class had the stomach bug that would not quit. So I was stomach bugging it multiple times. And I still only got about between 60 and 70% better. And I was like, now, wait a second. I don't have the happy story. I don't have the resilient story. So I really, as in the mornings, I take my walk, which is part of the program, and I started talking into my phone through my headset, just what does all this mean for me personally? And out of that, I came up with this thing that I'm calling the resiliency arc that talks about when you face these life-changing, whether it's a diagnosis or it's a loss or it's a divorce or it's a job change or whatever, kind of what you have to go through and what you need to process. And the first thing I said is you got to have the bad day, and you've got to sit in that bad day, and you've got to have people who will sit in that bad day. And I really started thinking and writing things that I wish I had had. And one of the things I wish I had, and actually a friend of mine sent me a card, and it had, and she sent me this hat that has, I went to Georgia, and it has dogs written upside down. And she said, I know your world is upside down right now, and that's okay. It wasn't your world's upside down, but it's going to flip over soon. And it wasn't, there's a big storm, but you have to have a storm to get a rainbow. It was, this is what life is. And this is what life is. And, so I've actually written a journal that I'm working to get published called the Bad Day Journal. And it's funny because I'm on Positive Talk Radio, but the Bad Day Journal doesn't have one positive quote in it, because sometimes you just need to have the bad day, and that needs to be okay. And in talking to different people about what I was working on and stuff, I thought it became clear to me this is a message that people need to hear and that people want to hear and need a place for. And so I launched a Substack about 7 weeks ago. And in the first 8 weeks is the Bad Day Collection. And I'm writing 8 weeks about bad days. And my husband has said, only you could write 8 weeks about bad days and end up on Positive Talk Radio. But, you know, and I say this to people, you know, the thing about it is when someone is facing this life, whatever it is, that's life-changing, they know it could be worse. I know my life could be worse. I know I could not be here. I know I could be in a coma. I know I could be in a wheelchair. I could go on and on all the things that I know about how this could be worse. They know it's not going to be awful forever. I know that's something that, you know, I'll keep working. I know things will get better. I know. But that doesn't change the fact that this is awful, and that it's hard, and that it's affected my whole family, that it's affected our children, that our lives will never be what they were 30 seconds before 9, whatever that morning. And I needed to sit in that before I could move forward. And it's not easy to sit in it as a person going through it. And it's not easy to go to people and be with them as they're going through it either. Because I think part of it is we don't want to, gosh, if it could happen to them, could it happen to us? We want to rush to the happy ending. But you have, I mean, think about some of the great movies that have happy endings. Would they be great movies if they didn't have all the different things in between?
Nope.
Think about the Wizard of Oz is kind of, you know, would it be as impactful if Dorothy hadn't had to face the witch and run away from the monkeys and, you know, go on that big and you know, find out the wizard was false? If she hadn't do that, it wouldn't have been as impactful for her to realize she always had the way to go home.
And when we come back from this break, I want to talk about the journey, because we all have a journey. And sometimes it is important for you to sit with the things that you have to continue to worry about and to just let it be, and to just, the gospel according to Paul McCartney, just let it be. And over time it will improve. We're talking with Eleanor Shell, and go to our website again, which is resilientmagnolia.com, and she's got a link to the Substack page right there, and you can go look at her blog and everything. It's a great site that you built. So we need to take our quick break, and we'll be right back right after this.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. You know, driving a bus taught me something powerful. Every day, people from all walks of life stepped on board. Some were cheerful, some were tired, some were lost in thought. Yet no matter where they came from, the bus still moved forward. Life is the same. We all ride together. And kindness is the ticket that makes the journey lighter. You're listening to Positive Talk Radio, where stories of hope live. And welcome back to Positive Talk. Eleanor Shell is with us, and she suffered a dramatic and traumatic brain injury. And she's working. This happened 18 months ago?
18 months ago on the 12th of this month.
And by the way, and I know everything ain't perfect, but you're moving forward. You've got a great smile. You've got a great attitude. You've got a great support system around you, I'm assuming.
Yes, I have we have community upon community, which is amazing.
And that are some of the tools, some of the things that you need to continue your recovery from this, because you're nowhere near done. You've got a lot of work and a lot of work ahead of you. Sometimes it's daunting, though, isn't it? And that's why you wrote what you did and what you wrote.
Yes, it is. It's overwhelming, and things. I'm in a good. I would say the last couple of weeks I've kind of been in an upswing, where things are feeling really great. But about a month ago, I was in I don't know if I'm ever going to be happy again stage. So because you just feel so overwhelmed and everything is so, there's not just a uphill climb. All you see is, multiple uphill climbs that you've got to get through, as you're carrying through this journey. And it's how you eat an elephant one bite at a time. But sometimes that next bite is more than you think you can handle. But I have three, like I said, three amazing kids and an amazing husband, who is extremely supportive. And we have a community that's extremely supportive. And, sometimes, throughout this process, I've lived on what I call borrowed hope, because there were people who were in my corner and believed when I didn't have anything left to believe in or anything left to give. And they upheld me every day and still do.
Which is it's having a great support system is awesome. And I want to give a shout out to your husband as well, because he didn't bargain for this either. You were just going to the doctor's office and it wasn't a big deal. And then he gets a call and they said, you're in the hospital and you're in the emergency room. And that must have been just as a very horrific moment for him as well.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's a funny story. So the person who called, they called him to the scene, a woman, because I kept saying, call my husband. And all she said is, she wouldn't tell him what happened. And she just said, your wife needs you. And I'll say, I don't have the best reputation for being the most graceful person at times. And he really thought I had done something silly. He joked when those scooters that you can rent, you started popping up and down. He's like, you go ride a scooter and you can call your mom when you're in the emergency room. He's like, because I'm not going to come to you, because it's just an accident waiting to happen. And so he really, he thought, something silly like that, something I had done something. And of course he pulls up and he sees there were multiple fire trucks and multiple ambulances. And he's like, oh dear. But yeah, I mean, and I've said this throughout this process, you stand up and you make those promises, and think you understand what better for worse and richer for poorer and sick versus for help is, but you have no idea. And I was like, even without something like this, you have no idea. But when something like this happens, and he has had, actually someone that he knows through me say to him, if that was my wife, I would have been out of there. And probably, and the person who said it probably meant it. And I don't think that's ever crossed his mind. And because I was the primary caregiver for our children, we were both working. I, cooked all the meals. He called me the franchise player. Honestly, when I was pregnant with all of my kids, he would say that to the doctor. She's the franchise player. She can't go down. She's the franchise player. And his franchise player went on injured reserve, and he's never once thought, "What am I doing here?" He's like, "This is where I need to be," and not everyone has that. I'll say.
Well, that's because he's what you call an actual man.
Yes.
Who takes care of his responsibilities, and he loves you. You're the mother of his children. You're his wife. I guess there are so many people. I have a friend of mine. He's been married 4 times, and I looked at him one day and I said, "Why don't you just get a dog? Because you don't seem to be able to handle this responsibility thing very well."
Yeah.
And so many people, there's the vows, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, for until death do us part. And most people, it's just words. Doesn't matter. And I'm glad to see that you have a support system, including him and the kids. Probably the 2 older ones. The younger one is not ready yet, but they're helping you, I'm sure, and stuff. But I wanted to say this because life is a journey. And sometimes we have ups and downs. You're from the South, so you'll understand this. Sometimes we have a bad country music song experience.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And in my case, it was my dad died, and my dog died, and my wife left, and I lost my house, and all that kind of stuff. And but the resiliency that we can have in our lives is an amazing human trait that a lot of people don't look at as important as it is. But there are people like yourself. You're sitting there with a smile. It's 18 months out. You're going to get better, and you're going to continue to get better. And you are going to, I anticipate that you're going to be speaking to a lot of people, and that you're going to be writing, I don't know, maybe a book or 2 about your experiences and things about, and also you're working with, and I love this part about your journey, you're working with organizations that try and educate kids. And when I mean kids, 16, 17, 18, and so forth, on the importance of paying attention to the road, not texting, not using substances and things like that. It's really important work. So tell me, how did you hook up with these folks, and what are you doing with them?
So from the beginning of this, and I would say probably even before this, whenever I hit a bump in my life, my motto is, if I'm going to go through it, I'm going to use it. And how can I, pay it forward? Because I feel like people pay it forward to me every day, and in big ways and small ways. And so as I really around the 1-year anniversary, when I started, thinking about, and it was kind of processing my feelings towards the driver and the whole, everything. I was like, how can I use this for positive? And I honestly, I just did a web search about, felt like there had to be something about distracted driving out there. I remember grew up in the MAD and STAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving and Students Against Drunk Driving, because that was the big thing when I was starting to drive. And remember people coming to our school and telling stories and that sort of stuff. And I just found these organizations, and I was like, okay, I can do this. My background was, I was a Presbyterian minister, so I'm comfortable in speaking in front of others. And just started going through the training, and I know it's not impactful just to get up and say, this happened to me and poor me and that sort of stuff. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to say this happened, but it could happen to anyone. And this is the impact. And both of these organizations, the End Distracted Driving, now especially, really helps you take your story that is very emotional and very impactful, but make it so that it's partnered with the facts and the statistics. So it becomes more than just you trauma bonding with people, or, telling, having them, jump into your world. And I'm a researcher. My husband will tell you I research everything. And so it's important to me that anything that I do is not just me telling what I think or what I feel, is that it's backed up. And so I became certified, and, I have flyers that I kind of send out to high schools and organizations saying, if you want someone to talk about this, because we all know, I mean, we're kids, and we all know, your teachers tell you and your parents tell you and that sort of thing. And you listen to maybe 1% of what they say, but
If that.
if that. Yeah, if that. And so to be able to come in and, be an outsider with a real world experience. And I'll tell you this, because I mean, I like, my phone's right here. I'm not, it's that close to me all the time. I mean, honestly, that could have been me one day in a parking lot.
Sure.
I've looked down on my phone when I shouldn't have. But if I get one student or one person who hears the story and they are better about putting the phone in the console, or their, whatever, so that that's not their distraction, and that keeps one accident from happening, then yeah, I'm going to do it.
Well, and the other thing is, Eleanor, you've got 3 kids.
Yes.
And one of these days, these kids are going to grow up, and then they're going to get a driver's license, and then they're going to want to drive. I really think it's important for parents to realize, 1, things can happen in a moment's notice. 2, if they're 16 and they're not very experienced, they should not be carrying anybody else with them or going out on a Saturday night and all that kind of stuff. I'm not even so sure that a 16-year-old should be given a car.
Yeah.
I didn't give my children cars until they drove my cars, but only on permission only. Yeah. So they had to ask for permission. And where are you going? Why are you going there? What are you going to do? And stuff. And I mean, my son killed my van on his way to school because he got rear-ended, and it wasn't his fault. But still, those things happen, and they happen in a moment's notice. We need to treat our children with the jealousy and the love that we have for them, to not allow these kind of things to go on, and to make it really crystal clear. And that's why what you're doing is so important, and going and talking to these kids, because I don't know if they're going to believe you or not, but at least they may think about it for a moment.
Yeah. Well, and you never know. I'll say that. So this is, you never know what's going to impact children. Like, there was a Growing Pains episode that was about cocaine or drugs. I think it was cocaine. And someone died the first time they tried drugs. And I think I was like 8 or 9 when that came out. But can I tell you the number of times that I was like, nope, not even tempted, because I'm like, that would be me. I would be the one person that one time, I would try one time and I would have the heart attack, or and most people don't even remember that episode. But for me, that was the impactful for some reason at that time. And so, yeah, you never know what it's going to be. And the other thing is that I think we as parents need to be aware of. It's not only telling our children, it's showing our children, because my children know now I don't have the phone while I'm driving anymore. I put it where it is, I can see the GPS on my screen, but, because I can't expect when they turn 16, if they've seen me for 16 years of their life driving and scrolling or answering emails or that sort of stuff. I do a lot of voice to text now. I do a lot of voice memos to people, because they hear you by what they see. When they're growing up.
Yep. Don't do as I do as I say. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that being said to children because parents are doing some really silly things. But you see, they've got the experience and nothing bad can happen to them. I know bus drivers, professional bus drivers, that got into an accident with a pedestrian and that pedestrian died. I can't imagine having to live with that for my entire life. By the way, we're talking with Eleanor Shell. Go again to our website, which is resilientmagnolia.com. Go to her Substack page. You can subscribe there, and then all the information that she has and all the blogs and all the posts that she has, you have access to that. And that's a really big deal. We need to take our final break real quick. Eleanor, is that okay? And we'll be right back in just a second.
Yes.
And by the way, I got to tell you, I'm having a great time talking to you.
Right. It's good to talk to you too. This is great.
We'll be right back. Are you looking for your daily dose of inspiration? Stay connected to all your favorite shows, music, and news with the Brushwood Media Network app. From Positive Talk Radio to Greatest Vibes Unplugged and so many more uplifting voices around the world, everything you need is right in one place. It's easy to use, too. Always available and designed to keep you inspired 24 hours a day. Go to brushwoodmedianetwork.com and download the app, and you will always have Brushwood Media available on your smartphone. Download it now and make inspiration and music and conversation part of your everyday. And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin McDonald, and Brichelle's off today. She'll be back tomorrow, and Eleanor Shell is with us today. And, you know, Eleanor, I got to tell you a real quick story about that drug use that you were talking about. When I was a kid, and I never used cocaine. I never tried it or any of that stuff. But I went to a party, and they had a back room. And the back room was where all the harder drugs were done. So I was sitting there with 10 other people, and there was somebody, I'd never seen this done before, but there was somebody that had a mirror out, and they had this white powder on, and they had a razor blade, and they were cutting it up, and then they were taking it and putting it into little lines and stuff, and then somebody rolled up a dollar bill, or I don't know, 20 or something, and so it went around the room, and when it came to me, I said, no thanks. And everybody looked at me like, is he a narc? What is going on? Why is he not imbibing? Because I didn't, and I got that same message that cocaine is bad. I'd probably like it too much, and then my life was going to go to hell. But we're talking with Eleanor. She had, to recap, she was involved in a pedestrian accident, that she was the pedestrian, and she suffered not only a hip injury, which I'm sure took some time to heal and stuff, but I'm guessing what happened was you hit your head on the pavement, would be my guess.
That's pretty good guess. That's what everyone assumes. So, and things happen.
And when that happens, if that happens to you, you need to go to the doctor. Don't just go home and say you're fine, because there are people that have gone into a coma, that they go home and they're tired, because one of the protocols is if your kid has a concussion, keep them awake and stuff. And so but go to the doctor, because you just don't know. And if your brain is swelling at all, you don't know how long it's going to swell, or how much it's going to swell over time. Is that kind of true? Because I know you know everything about this at this point.
Yeah, at this point, I am definitely a neurologist in training, but yeah, it can. And you don't, and you won't, and it doesn't necessarily show up on imaging either. That's the other big thing, is there's no way to detect what the impact was in most cases, because it's the shaking, it's the it's not necessarily a bleed, and it's not necessarily, you can't see a bruise on your brain unless you have something that's pulling a lot. Or so, all of my imaging, I can't even tell you the number of MRIs and CAT scans I've had in this past year, and they're always normal, which is good, but they continue to check because there are things that can develop and so they have to continue to check for those things.
Well, and Eleanor, I want to thank you for being here. I really am hopeful that you will continue your work. And by the way, if somebody wants you to come speak, if they're out of town, they gotta pay for you to get there and put you up. But if they can find that on your website as well, right?
Absolutely, yes. I'm open to speaking locally and nationally. As I said, I really just feel that this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. It's not what I had what I would have chosen, and it's not what I had planned. But if we've got to get. I want people to be aware of brain injuries in women. I want people to be aware of the real life impacts of distracted driving. And I want us to change the narrative on how we sit with people and how we as individuals claim and own the hard things in our lives, and not be afraid to share them, to be open to letting people into the hard things. Because in that's where real human connection comes from.
And tell me if this is true in your experience. That sometimes when you're having a hard day and all you're looking for is somebody to sit with you, they don't have to necessarily say anything. They don't have to say, well, tomorrow's going to be better, because in your mind at that particular moment, no, it's not. What the hell's the matter with you? And stuff. So just sitting with a friend and holding their hand and making them feel accepted and loved is a very important thing, isn't it?
That's the most important thing, because I guarantee you, if you don't say anything, you're not going to say anything wrong.
That's a bumper sticker, by the way.
Yeah. So yeah. So they just want to know that they're not alone.
That's it. That's it. And you create that human connection, and you can do that without saying a word.
Mm-hmm.
Just be there for them. Or maybe bring them dinner, or maybe make dinner for the kids, and so that's something that you don't have to worry about, or just there's a myriad of things that people can do to support you. And but I'm excited. Will you come back and talk to me in another 6 months or
Absolutely.
so?
Absolutely.
I would love for you to meet Purcell, but also I really want to I know that your progress is going to be substantial. And because your mind is engaged, your heart is engaged, and you're taking care of business, and you're taking care of the kids. So you're doing the best you can.
Yes.
And that's all and we need to give each other grace, because all we can do is the best that we can do, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And everyone's doing the best they can with what they have. And what they have one day may not be what they have the next day. And we just need to meet people where they are.
That's it. That's it. Because where we are is where we are.
Exactly.
I don't know how profound that was, but where we are is where we are. Anyway, Eleanor, go to Eleanor's website, which is Resilient. I love that. ResilientMagnolias.com. And go to her Substack page. You can support her. There's also, I believe, a donation page. Is there not?
There is on Resilient Magnolia. We I have a partner who actually does all the pretty design stuff, but we are trying to raise capital to be able to get our bad day journals printed, and some other resources that I have worked on for people who are going through these hard times. I have a line of greeting cards that, don't tell people that the rainbow's coming. It says, my umbrella's not big enough for this, but I'll get wet with you, and ways that you can support people in real ways. Let them know that you're there for them without putting pressure on them to get better right away, or to show up in ways that aren't authentic to them.
Well, when you start having those published and put together and published, I want you to come back so that we can promote them.
Absolutely.
You're an amazing woman, and thank you so much for being here, Eleanor. Go
Thank you for
go to
having
our website, which is resilientmagnolia.com. And is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
I do have to say, my kids are watching at their grandparents' house, and so they wanted me to say hi, Charlie, Jake, and Blakely, to them.
Who's the oldest?
Charlie's the oldest.
How old is Charlie?
Charlie is 8.
Next time you're here, I expect Charlie to be on camera with you because I want to talk to him.
Oh, I will. They will all be Charlie, Jay, and Jake as well. You want Jake as well. He's our star. He's the villain.
I would love to have all three of them because I love kids and they're part of this equation as well. And we can give them their 15 minutes of fame and they'll be heard all over the world.
That would be wonderful. They would love that.
So, Eleanor Shell, thank you so much. Again, go to resilientmagnolia.com and you have a wonderful day. Take care of yourself. And everything is going to be what it is. Bye.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank
you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.